Okay, hi everybody. My name is Reczek and I am an associate professor in the Department of Sociology at Ohio State University. And I'm here with Mieke Thomeer, who is an associate professor in the Department of Sociology at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And we are talking to Dr. Debra Umberson, who is professor of sociology at the University of Texas at Austin, where both Mieke and I got our PhDs. Deb has been at UT Austin since 1988, and in that time has been awarded, by my count, 5 NIH R01 awards and other countless funding. She has been the director of the Population Research Center, chair of the Department of Sociology, co-director of the Texas Aging and Longevity Center, and has published a book and too many papers to count. I tried. It was not going to happen. Google Scholar says over 100. And today, the reason we're recording this and talking to each other today is to celebrate Deb and all of her accomplishments. Most specifically, 2 awards that she won in 2020 from 2 major sections of the American Sociological Association. The first being ASA's Family Section Distinguished Career Award, and the second being the Leo G. Reeder Award for Distinguished Contributions in Medical Sociology. So not only are these 2 awards incredibly impressive, but also these 2 awards are on top of 2 other career awards that Deb won previously in the past 5 years, one being the Matilda White Riley Distinguished Scholar Award from the ASA Section on Aging in the Life Course, and the other being the Leonard Perlin Award for Distinguished Contributions in the Mental Health section of ASA. So these are 4 major awards. I know I can't imagine having won 4 major Distinguished Career Awards in ASA. And it really demonstrates Deb's influence not only in one field, but in 4 major fields and beyond. I know Deb has personally influenced Mieke and I, as well as many other junior scholars. And so we're just wanting to talk today to Deb about her career. With ASA going virtually, obviously we would love to have a big party and celebrate all of these accomplishments, but we really just want to get a sense of, Deb, how you see your career and talk to you about some of your research. So I actually want to start talking first about how you might imagine starting your career today. And for those who are junior scholars or maybe somewhere in the middle of their career, what kind of advice might you give to people who look at your accomplishments and want to reach those accomplishments?
Well, I don't know if this advice works for other people, but I think that the reason that I've gotten awards across these sections is because my interests are very diverse and my training was really across different areas. And I always did exactly what I wanted to do in terms of research. I just did what was most interesting to me. And I think as long as you have some passion about what you're doing and some real curiosity about it, you're much more likely to have an impact and to be productive. And it makes it a lot more fun too. And in doing that, sometimes you turn corners and go into a different field or a different direction because that's just where your interests are more likely to lie. So I never looked for where the funding was or what I thought was going to get me a job. I just kind of poured myself into whatever I was most interested in at the moment. I never expected to be successful at anything, so I didn't have that kind of pressure, and I just did what I wanted to do.
That's great advice. Thanks.
So kind of with that then, what is interesting right now? So what are you working on right now? What are you passionate about? What are you finding really interesting?
Yeah, so it turns out in hindsight, it looks like everything I've ever done has been about, one way or another, about social connection and health. And I didn't plan that, but apparently that's what I'm interested in because that's what I've always done. And so I'm working on 2 major projects right now. and both of them have to do with social connections and health. And so the first big project, which you guys are involved in to some extent, is looking at same-sex compared to different sex spouses and how they influence each other's health. So it's really about the connections offered by intimate relationships. And I'm super interested in gendered variation, which the field of the family, sociology of the family, has always really emphasized gender differences in how partners influence each other's health. And as same-sex marriage became legalized and the culture has changed, we've really got this incredible opportunity now to look at marriage and how spouses influence each other across these sort of gendered contexts, with women, men with men, and men and women together. And that raises all kinds of incredibly interesting questions about the ways we influence each other's health. The other big project is not so much focused on social connection, but focused on the disruption of social connections. And I've always had an interest in grief and bereavement, as well as in close social ties. So, so it's kind of a natural progression, I think, that I got interested in this. And so this project really focuses on racial ethnic disparities in exposure to the death of family members over the life course, and what that does to health and well-being, because it triggers, if you lose family members, especially early in the life course, it just triggers this unfolding cascade of events and experiences and feelings that add to disadvantage in health and well-being over the life course. So that's what I'm looking at most closely right now.
So given your interest in social relationships, I'm curious about your experiences at UT Austin, and specifically in the Department of Sociology, but also beyond that, because of course it's a huge university with lots of different centers and departments. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about your time at UT in the department specifically, but also more broadly, and what you found most rewarding there.
Yeah. So, well, I guess I'm a real Texan after all of these years in Texas, because the first thing that I would say that I like about it is that it's really big. It's Texas size. And I personally love being in a huge department with lots of colleagues and lots of graduate students, and being on a big campus with lots of activity going on. And it's not just the department, of course, it's the whole university, so that you have this big interdisciplinary community that the sociology department connects to as well. But because it's so big, it means that you can kind of teach what you want to teach. You have lots of opportunities for collaboration. And one of the things that I really love about the department is there is a lot of collaboration. And it's not just collaboration like with faculty members or between faculty and students. I love that the students start collaborating with each other during their time at UT. And I know that you too have done that. You've collaborated on articles and projects before, and you continue to. And I see that, I mean, I see those ties all across the US. It's like all of these Texas people who are still doing research with each other years and decades later after leaving UT. And I just think that's part of the culture at Texas, is collaboration and big projects where lots of people work together. And then of course, one other aspect of that, at least for the faculty, among the faculty, because we're big and because we're very diverse in a lot of different ways, it's a very messy democracy in terms of decision making within the department. And I really like that. So it means that sometimes it's uncomfortable and there are struggles, but there's a lot of debate. But I think that that's one of the reasons that Texas is a good department, is because there is that debate and resolution. And at the end of the day, I think that we all like each other. So, so it turns out to be just a fun, creative, active place. And it's been a great place to have my career.
And also the food. You didn't even mention the food in that answer.
Food is incredible. Yeah. And Austin, and of course there's Austin, which is just completely fun.
So you actually kind of already answered this one, so I might take it a different direction. But so you mentioned that you follow projects that you have passion about and are interested in. And so we were going to ask you how you decide on your next project and how you decide what will be fruitful. But I'd actually be curious what you do when you encounter an obstacle in a project. So how do you shift or pivot or kind of decide what to do when something just seems too difficult to study or unfundable or something like that?
Yeah. Well, let me address both just a little bit. So I think that the way I find new projects is, I mean, it is that sort of natural interest. But I will say it usually takes me several years. Once I kind of land on something that I'm interested in, it takes several years for it to turn into something solid that's like a real research project. And I can give you an example from, so this racial ethnic disparities and death of family members. That project is really just now full tilt in terms of my involvement in it. But it started probably a decade ago. And it started because I was, when Trayvon Martin was killed by, the so-called neighborhood watchman in Florida, his mother was on the news a lot, and she really had, it's because of her actually that I initially got interested in this project, because she was grief stricken, but she was very strong and in the media a lot and talking about her experiences. And she's now involved in Mothers of the Movement. And I mean, it really has turned into a movement, obviously. And I was riveted by watching her and thinking about what her experiences were like. And I just started thinking about it all the time. I was just obsessed with it. And then I started looking for data, like how many people does this happen to? And there was no data. And I wanted to know, like, well, how common is this experience, and how much more common is this experience across racial ethnic groups? And so it was all those sorts of questions, and it took several years to kind of become like my research project. And then the second question about challenges. So there are always challenges in research projects. And of course there, it can be all different sorts of things can come up. I think the only thing I can say about that I don't know if it's helpful, but is to just say that it does happen in every research project and in everybody's career. And sometimes these challenges are huge and painful and difficult, and they are for anybody. And sometimes it takes a while to work through them. And I just think it's a universal experience, in that if you're going to do good work, that it's sort of like relationships, they go through good times and bad times, and you just have to stick with them and really figure out, get help from other people. And I always talk to, friends and colleagues about those challenges and how to work through them. But I think it's part of the process.
That's really helpful. I also really appreciate the ability to be flexible in your interests and what you want to study, and be inspired by the world around us. I think that's a wonderful lesson that you've taught me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, honestly, I feel like I have a family of former students and current students that in terms of social connection and connection to the world, they're an essential and rich part of my life, and you make my career really worthwhile, because it's not just a career, it's like it's my life. It's, you know, a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It's a good family tree.
Yeah, there you go.
The chosen family.
Exactly.
So I guess one other question that we wanted to ask you is, you know, thinking about the 2 section awards that you won this year, family and medical sociology, do you have any insight into where you'd like to see the fields, maybe picking one of them or both of them, would go next?
Oh, that's an interesting question. And you know, I think I could speak maybe more to the family area, because over the course of my career, which has apparently now been long, just a while, you know, when I was first in the field, like family studies was still kind of very traditional, and it's changed so phenomenally over the past several decades. And I'm sure it will continue to. I mean, family is a lot of different things, like there's socioeconomic aspects of the family and so on. I can only really speak to my area, which is more about family connections and health. And I feel like we are already moving in this direction, but that it's not like I want to throw away the word family, but that would be okay with me if we did, because I feel like it really is about social connection, which is not, for many of us, it's not necessarily with family members in terms of siblings or parents or children. It's with our closest friends, or with our colleagues, or our pets, or with our community. And those are all things people study, but they're, to me, conceptually, they're all the same, because they're all about this fundamental need to be connected, which during the time of COVID, I think is so highlighted for everyone. It's like casual connections as you walk down the street with people you don't even know. I mean, it's more apparent to me than ever before how important it is, how important all of these social ties are. And I don't think we should be so focused on the family, because that privileges those family connections so much, whether it comes to legal protections, your ability to borrow money from people, and all sorts of things, that we need a broader definition of social connections that matter when it comes to those things.
Oh, I love that. That's fabulous. I'm totally on board.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Deb, and congratulations. It's a huge, huge accomplishment, and we're so glad to be able to celebrate this way with you and in person at some point in the future. And I just wanted to plug a couple of your articles for people who are watching this and maybe new to your work, but especially your 2017 article in JHSB on how Black Deaths Matter, Race, Relationship Loss, and Effects on Survivors. And then I'd also point people to a recent issue of the Journal of Marriage and Family, where I was able to work with Deb on an article that's called Family Matters, Research on Family Ties and Health from 2010 to 2020. That's part of JMF's special issue that does a great job of just overviewing research on the family. And Rin has a great piece in that issue as well, looking at queer families specifically. So thank you, Deb, and congratulations.
Congratulations.
I look forward to celebrating in person too.